Alrighty then, let's get right into it, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about the Greek Golden Age. Okay, it takes place in Athens. This is episode 7 of Shankism. And it's also named the Golden Age of Pericles. Pericles is the guy that you see right there, the stone guy. That guy wasn't always made of stone. He was a human, I assure you. The Greek Golden Age occurred primarily in the city-state of Athens. Okay, after, this is very important, after the Persian War. They become this glory age after the Persian War. It's what you guys are doing in your storyboards. The Greek Golden Age is sometimes called the Golden Age of Pericles because he's kind of the one that sponsors this. He's the one that leads this. He's not a dictator. He's not a king. He is an Athenian statesman. He's kind of like a very good, aggressive statesman. Athenian. Think of him as a really good congressman that kind of takes charge of things. Okay. Pericles' 3 goals that you need to write down. You must write these down. Strengthen Athenian democracy, meaning that more people are able to have democracy. More people are eligible to be citizens. More people have the right to vote. 18, male, own land. That's a pretty basic criteria there. So if you are a woman, you're not a citizen. If you're a foreigner, it's very difficult to become a citizen. And if you're not 18, sorry. Okay. Strengthen Athenian power. They become really powerful. They become probably, besides Sparta, there's no one else that really rivals them. Okay? They collect all the money. They ally with other Greek city-states all around the Aegean, and they funnel in money. Okay, in this island called Delos. And in that island is what is called the Delian League. Eventually, all that money and basically the treasury is moved to Athens. Okay, but Athens kind of just bullies basically everyone to giving them money. Like, hey, Persia might be back. Persia might be back. We got to be strengthened. We got to be ready. Give us money. And people oblige because they're the weak city-states can't really hold up to what Athens has. They glorify and they beautify Athens. A big thing here, the Parthenon. They rebuild the Parthenon after Xerxes burns it during the Persian War. They rebuild it, okay, and glorify it, they beautify it. They want to say, hey, this city represents democracy, just as Washington, D.C. represents democracy. You look at it, Washington, D.C., there's no other place really like it, okay? That's how it was in Athens, okay? So the Greek Golden Age. So a couple things from this. There's Greek sculptors. Myron portrayed people as they should look rather than how they actually looked. Okay, Myron would be one of these sculptors. Okay, his most famous is the discus thrower, which you need to know. That's why I have it check marked and I have it italicized as well. So I'm sure you probably have seen that, but you know, this is how they should look, not rather how they all actually looked. Okay. Phidias is another guy you would have to know. He's responsible for the sculptures found inside of the Parthenon. And if you look at the image on the right, that would be what the statue inside of the Parthenon would have looked like if it was still standing. Okay, we just kind of have writings of what it looked like. That's the one in Nashville. I've seen that one personally. It's pretty incredible. And you can see the size differential there. It's massive. Okay, and they build this for Athena. Now remember, there is the Parthenon, and inside of it there is this sculpture of the goddess Athena. Now they built this after the Persian War. The Persians were trying to take their way of life, okay? And the Athenians, especially, their way of life was democracy, voting by the people. You know, people make decisions. Athena is the goddess of battle strategy and war. You know, she uses her brain power to essentially win or defend and win these battles. And the Greeks saw no better god. It's their matron goddess, Athena. Athens. It's where it gets its name. Okay, so it's now the Parthenon represents democracy all around the world. You see the Parthenon, you think democracy. It's kind of like when you see the Statue of Liberty, you think America, freedom. Same thing here. Okay. There's some other sculptors. But that you're not really going to have. Now, the main one here would be Myron with the discus thrower, Phidias with the Athena inside of the Parthenon. the Greek Golden Age continues in Athens. Okay, Greek playwrights. Now you've already kind of done the tragedies, and there's a couple here. They're all these dramas, all these tragedies. They're meant to please the god, specifically gods, and specifically Dionysus. Okay, the god of partying and the god of wine. Okay, and one of the main ones is Sophocles. All right, and he writes Oedipus Rex. As you see in this, I'll probably push out a video here eventually with Oedipus Rex, but in a nutshell, it's a tragedy because he ends up killing his father, accidentally marrying his mom, and having a child. And when he figures this out, that it was his mom, because he didn't know his mom, long story short, and he ends up basically poking out his own eyes and wandering the earth. It's a tragedy. It doesn't end in like sunshine and rainbows. I'm giving you the really quick version of it. It's worth a read. It's worth even just a watch on some type of YouTube video of it. Okay. The other ones I don't think you'll have to know. The other individual. So Sophocles writes, Aeschylus and Euripides. Those are all dramatists. Okay, but the main one being Sophocles and Oedipus Rex. Comedies, I think Aristophanes. These are comedies. So you have the Aristophanes. Funny, dad joke. He plays the play in the clouds. That's the play that he puts on. So basically, the more plays that he puts out, they're making fun of their satires. They're making fun of political people. They're making fun of what's going on in the government and everything today. Okay, so a social satire, social meaning people, satire kind of meaning that you're making fun of especially political people. It's a writing style used to criticize corrupt and unfair political leaders and decisions that they make. You're making fun of kind of maybe some serious situations that are going on in your city-state or in your country or whatever it may be. We have this today. Okay, there's a lot of examples. John Oliver, Seth Meyers, Trevor Noah. A lot of the late night people, they make fun of our government. They make fun of their satirists. They make fun of Trump. They make fun of politicians, the congressmen, congresswomen, women. They're making light of kind of some serious things that go on, and kind of it starts with Aristophanes. Okay. And the more that the backlash came from the people that you can't make fun of us, don't make fun of us, I'm so powerful, I'm so great, the more he kept making fun of them. Okay, so you need to know Aristophanes is the comedian, essentially. He wrote these comedies, and these dramatists, these tragedy writers like Oedipus, play Oedipus, written by Sophocles. Okay, basically a comedy is just a drama plus time. It's kind of one of like the comedy equations. Okay, yeah. All right, Athens. We've touched upon this already. During the Golden Age, there's philosophers. These are seekers of wisdom. These are lovers of wisdom. They love wisdom. They love knowledge, all knowledge. Okay, philosophy became the foundation for methods of philosophy, kind of like really deep worldly thinking about everything around them. Problematics into inquiry, education system, and higher thinking. If you forget everything, you need to kind of just imagine that when you're a philosopher and you philosophize about things, you're thinking deeply. It's higher level thinking. Again, I mentioned this in class before. It's not just, oh, what's for lunch today? Cheeseburger, sloppy Joe, great. That's not what these philosophers are doing. They're higher level thinking. Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? Like the deeper level questions, kind of like that. How to live a better life. There were sophists, traveling teachers who rejected the idea that gods controlled human actions. They believed that God was different for each individual. Okay, God or gods, right? So there's another group of these sophists kind of had this. They're traveling teachers. So imagine if I was on the road, kind of teaching. Essentially, Socrates kind of had this method. There's no actual school, which is kind of like, I'm going to walk around and teach, and if you want a lesson, walk with me. I'll walk around Athens. Okay. The three Greek philosophers, we've already talked about this. S-P, A. And imagine that these Socrates, Plato, Aristotle are all in a spa together. They're talking about philosophy. They're talking about Greek world stuff. They're talking about worldly stuff. They've got their towels on. They're old. They're sweating. Okay. And they're talking about philosophy. I know it's gross. I know you're like, Mr. Shank. Oh my God. It makes you're gonna remember. You're gonna think spa. Oh yeah, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, and also remember Alexander will come here at the end because Aristotle will tutor Alexander. Spa. Socrates developed the Socratic method. So what is the Socratic method? Well, if you're a good teacher, you teach kind of by this, whether maybe you knew it or not. It's a teaching strategy where teachers are encouraged students to find the answers within themselves. So how do you find the answer within you? How do I get you to find the answer within inside yourself? I ask questions, not because I don't know the answers, but because I want you to think about it. If I just gave you answers, you would never learn anything. Okay. Socrates was accused of corrupting the youth. So the other Athenians were like, you're too progressive. Oh man, you have these just crazy ideas, Socrates. And he was sentenced to die for it. Like, all right, you're corrupting the youth. You need to die. They gave him a chance to leave. Even his students were like, want to get him out of jail. But Socrates was sticking to his guns, and he was doing what he had been preaching. Okay, he's following the Athenian law. This is, if you're corrupting the youth, you have to die. And he just followed suit. Athens gave him a chance to leave. His students gave him a chance to break out. To him it would unfound everything he was trying to teach. So he is leading by example. So he willingly drank the hemlock. And as you see in the picture, the famous picture of him drinking the hemlock. I don't know, he's just pointing up the sky, probably making a point, no pun intended, but that hemlock's like a poisonous plant that will eat your insides out. It would probably feel like 1,000 knives stabbing your stomach. Okay, it's not like you just peacefully go, oh, it's painful. It would be a painful death. But that's hemlock. That's Socrates. P is for Plato, not the fun. I think it's Crayola that makes that. I'm not even sure. Not the Plato stuff. Okay, this is actual person. So Plato was a student of Socrates. The only thing we know anything about Socrates is because Plato wrote stuff down. If you write stuff down, you'll actually probably remember it. Crazy world we live in. Okay. Plato wrote the earliest book on political science. Political science meaning like politics. Okay, like the science of politics. And he called it Republic. You 100% need to know that. It's like a perfect political utopia. If you know what a utopia, yes, it's similar to Zootopia. Zootopia would be like the perfect place for zoo animals. Well, a utopia is the perfect place for people. It's a perfect social place. Okay. Plato believed that the state was more important than the individual, meaning the country is more important than you, the individual, and that too much freedom led to chaos. Some people will still kind of believe this. If you give people too much freedom, the world kind of goes in chaos. You've got to have some freedoms, but not everything can be free. This is according to Plato. He also didn't believe in democracy. He believed in a philosopher king because people tend to be irrational. And if you have a philosopher king, one being kind of groomed from a very young age to be a king. The closest thing we ever get to that, Alexander the Great's an example. And so is Marcus Aurelius, is a very good example. Probably Marcus Aurelius way more than even Alexander. We'll talk about him during Rome. He wrote the dialogues called the Forms. It's like basically we have this perception of perfect forms, and we are just kind of bad reflections of an imperfect form. Okay. You probably learned a little bit about that, maybe a little bit about that in the video, but there's other videos that are out there that are really good as well. So you basically need to just remember that he also came with the academy. I think that's in your book too. So he had his school. Socrates never had a school. Plato did. Plato had the academy, and he wrote the Republic. Well, Aristotle, okay, comes into play. This is the SPA, S-P-A. Aristotle was tutored by Plato, and Aristotle opened the school called Lyceum. Okay, maybe you might hear it Lyceum, okay, or Lyceum, doesn't matter. Aristotle was famous for being the tutor to Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great became great because of Aristotle's tutoring from a very young age. Okay, Philip II, which is Alexander the Great's father, made it get a lot of tutors, but wanted specifically to have Aristotle as his like go-to guy for his young son. Who he was grooming to be the best. Okay, so the two main things here, three main things you could say: the school Lyceum. Okay, he was a tutor to Alexander. And he was the student of Plato, but he also was a polymath. He studied philosophy, biology, science, math, all these different studies. He was kind of like an expert in them. You're looking at one. These three are some of the greatest minds the world had ever known, ever. That's why we're not learning about it, because they were a guy who got tutored by someone. No. These are very impressive individuals. We can't dive deep into them. I'd love to, but you need to know the baseline, very basics of them. You're welcome to research it on your own. Okay? Oh yeah, they're still continuing. Never leave home without it. Twizzler. All right, so the Greek Golden Age continues. We move on to this cultural explosion, okay, after the Persian Wars. How do we know so much about the Persian Wars? There's this guy called Herodotus. Hero.us. Herodotus writes about Persian Wars in a book called The Histories. All right, he has a lot of other writings that are in the Histories, but the main thing here is the Persian War. He gets both sides of this. You watched a TED, or you will watch a TED Ed on this. Okay, he improved the history of writing, of the writing of history. Before it was just like one side. He got multiple different accounts from both sides, trying to be as factual as possible, as accurate as possible. Still not what we have today, but he's considered the father of history. Not the first historian, but the closest thing we have to what we would consider the first historian. But he kind of created our modern interpretation of how we look at history. We don't just look at one side. We look at multiple different angles, multiple different opinions, on that, and facts. Okay. There also was another historian, not as well known as Herodotus. His name was Thucydides. He wrote about the Peloponnesian War, which I have not talked about yet, but I, of course, will. I don't want to leave the classic Peloponnesian War between Sparta and Athens, which we'll talk about. They'll fight each other. Long story short, Sparta will win. He improved the writing of history as well. He kind of added to what Herodotus already had. He believed in studying the past to understand the present and the future. Okay? I know maybe you don't think this is necessary history. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't. But you can understand the present a lot better by studying the past and kind of predict the future better. Okay? Believe me, yes, this is true. I know it's hard to imagine you're in 8th grade and you're thinking, no way, there's no way you could kind of predict the future. There's no way you could help you with the present. It can. It definitely can. Okay? And that's what you see the Peloponnesian War in the top right of your screen. That would be Sparta versus Athens. And in the left of your screen, you see the Persian Wars, which Herodotus wrote about. Herodotus writes about Persian Wars. Thucydides writes about Peloponnesian Wars. They improve history. Let's move on. All right, episode 7 here, Greek Golden Age. Now we're getting into the medicine portion of it. We went through philosophers and dramatists and comedies and historians. Now we're getting into medicine. They're improving. This is why Greece is considered like the one of the, not say greatest civilizations, but one of the defining civilizations. Okay, so Greek medicine. The most famous Greek physician was, some kids will say Hippocrates. You could say Hippocrates is typically what most people kind of go with. Hippocrates. 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 Okay. Hippocrates was one of the first to accurately describe many diseases and believed in treating the whole body. Not just like the infected area, not just one little tiny morsel. like the whole body. If you have a cough, it's affecting your whole body. It's not just affecting your mouth. Okay, it sounds commonplace for us. We're like, yeah, duh, Mr. Shank, everyone knows that. You have to have these building blocks. You have to have people doing the trial and error. And fortunately, we've had people in the past that have paved the road for our medicine today. Also, I believe doctors should/could promote good health through helping patients. This all sounds like, yeah, duh. Clean water, yeah, duh. It's not the duh back then, I assure you. Okay, clean water, treating the whole patient. Okay, not just the one infected area or whatever. Identify what really is wrong. Okay, these sound basic, but these are mass improvements. Okay, and the biggest thing that's left over from Hippocrates, he's also kind of considered the father of medicine. Okay, you could put that down as well. But you would want to put down that all doctors pledge a code of ethics called the Hippocratic Oath. The Hippocratic Oath. And basically this oath is a pledge of they'll do no harm. That no matter what, they're going to treat the patient. Doesn't matter their ethnic background. It doesn't matter if they're evil or if they're good or they owe them money or whatever. It's not their decision to make that. Their number one job is to cure the patient. Do not worry about, is this person a murderer? Is this person a bad individual or a good individual? Or, does he owe you money? Whatever. You have to treat that person. If under the Hippocratic Oath, all doctors. I would ask your doctors next time you're there, hey, Dr. Miller, do you know the Hippocratic Oath? They should know at least what it is. And if they don't know what the Hippocratic Oath is, you might want to get a new doctor. Okay? If they can recite the Hippocratic Oath, wow. It means that this code of ethics is very important to them and they live by it. Okay? That they will do everything. Think about this. If you had a bad disease, like a new disease that was terminal, meaning that you more than likely will die unless this doctor tries this very progressive procedure. Like you would have like a 1% chance of making it. He could just say, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I could try it. Wouldn't you want him to try it? Wouldn't you want him to do everything in his absolute best? Yeah, you would. You want him to give him 110% to save your life. Would you want to, what if you were you're like in your 80s and you have an illness? Do doctors say, well, yeah, you're kind of old. I'm not really going to treat you. I'm just going to kind of neglect you because you're old. No, you don't want that. You want a doctor that lives by the Hippocratic Oath. Now, do all doctors live by the Hippocratic Oath? No. Okay? They should, but not all do. Okay? All right, so I'm going to get into the Peloponnesian War as well while I'm here because it's very quick and I'm kind of incorporating this into the Golden Age. That's pretty much the Golden Age of Greece. I've given you all the important stuff that you would need. Now, time passes on, okay? Persian War is over. Golden Age kind of still continues. It will fall off after the after the Peloponnesian War. Causes of the Peloponnesian War, okay? Athens, remember, they gained immense power through the Delian League. Basically, their alliances with other Greek city-states that are loyal to Athens. These other Greek city-states give them money, they give them supplies, they keep feeding Athens and making them grow and grow to a big super power of the day. Okay. In response to the Delian League, Sparta forms its own league called the Peloponnesian League. Wonder why they call it the Peloponnesian League. Could it be because they are located on the Peloponnesian Peninsula? Yeah, it's because of that. It's 100% because of that. Hostilities grew until war was eventually declared. When you have two powerhouses that are that close together, like 120 some miles away, they're going to eventually fight each other. They hated each other. Don't think because they fought together in the Persian Wars that they're buddy-buddy, then they're playing backyard football with each other and joking around. They don't really like each other. They have very different views on how you should structure your society. They believed the same gods, yes, of course, but they had some of the same culture. But when it came to politics and kind of like running your everyday lives, yeah, they were very different, okay? And as you see in the map here, all right, there's Sparta on the Peloponnesian Peninsula, and roughly 120 or so miles away, you have Athens. Because the Greek city-states were fighting one another, it was called the Greek Civil War. Okay, so you might hear it referred to as the Greek Civil War. These are Greeks fighting Greeks. Okay, in the beginning, Sparta had the superior military army. Okay, we all know Sparta is like legit on the ground. All right, they're a heck of an army. While Athens had a superior navy. Well, they had a superior navy because they're right on that peninsula that Athens is located right by the water. Okay, so if you're a civilization that's on an island or near the sea or an ocean, you're going to be probably going to be a pretty big powerhouse when it comes to naval on the sea, and they were excellent at it. Athens had unlimited supplies. Okay, Sparta did not. So what Sparta did is they basically made a barricade, an army all around the walls of Athens, and they just barricaded the outside. But it didn't matter because Athens just kept getting supplies from the sea, and Sparta couldn't do anything. Sparta didn't really have much of a navy. They had a navy, but not that great. Okay, but they got smart. They turned to their former enemies. Remember the Persians? They're still around. They're not like didn't just go away. Sparta asked for help. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Well, the enemy in this battle, this war, is Athens. So Sparta asked, they say, hey, Persia, we need some help. Can you blockade them? Let's get some ships out there and blockade them. That's what's going to happen. Okay. Persia agreed to supply Sparta a navy in exchange for the return of land. He'll give you some land. We'll give you some land as long as you blockade Athens. We'll handle it. It really could only benefit the Persians. Really, they might lose a couple ships, but gain a whole lot and defeat Athens, which was their original goal in the first place. Yeah, this was a no-brainer for them. No-brainer. With their new navy, Sparta gained the edge, especially after Athens lost 1/3 of the population to plague. If you get that many people, they piled basically everyone in Athens city-state piled into the city itself. All the rural areas were being occupied by Spartans. What do when you're in there for a couple of years? Even if you're getting supplies, diseases start running. Okay, if I piled normal class, we'll say about 30. If I piled 90 kids in there total, how long before most of us get sick in there? Not long. One person has a slight cold. Germs easily spread. And that's what happened. That's what happened in Athens. Pericles actually dies from this plague during this time period. Okay. Sparta's navy defeated Athens in a couple of different battles. So they actually will face them on the sea. And because Persia's supplying ships, very little, cost to them, Sparta will win this. And in Athens and their islands will surrender in 404 BC, 404 years before Jesus Christ is born. So you would need to put, Athens loses, which means Sparta wins. Okay, they're unable to unite the Greek city-states. This isn't like Sparta wins and just unites all of Greece. It doesn't happen. The Greeks' inability to unite led to an invasion by Philip II of Macedon. Macedon is north. You can kind of see it in that map. You see the Macedonia in yellow and Pella. In that area, the Macedonians come south here very shortly and will conquer all of Greece. All of Greece. It was so hard to conquer, and he'll do it with the phalanx of things that Philip II will learn. He'll learn kind of the tricks and trades of the Athenians and all the Greeks. Philip's son will soon be replaced by Philip will be replaced by his son Alexander the Great, which we will talk about in episode 8 of Shankism. So, that has been all. Thank you for joining me on Shankism.
Trying to forget you, I'm all alone in a ghost town. There's a beautiful madness inside my soul, and I